Hello everyone, welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. Sincerely hope everybody is doing well today. Whether you are clicking on this video, this reading for the very first time, or you are returning, welcome one and all. Today we are gathering messages from your mermaids. This will be an elemental water reading for all you empaths and light workers out there. And most people are empaths anyway, so regardless of whether you think of yourself as an empath or not, this will still be relevant to you, so stick around. And again, we are asking, what is your emotionality? How is your emotionality your superpower? So we're going to start off with messages from your mermaids here, and then I have separated the cups suit. So we're just working with the cup suit in tarot, and then we have the major arcana. That's my breakfast. I guess it's ready. So we will be working with that, and then other oracle cards to get you and move through your reading today. So pile 1 or mermaid 1 is empathy. That is number 1. Pile 2 or mermaid 2 is voyage. And pile 3 or mermaid 3 is optimism. So you could choose this based on the language, the energy, whatever you choose and however you choose is completely up to you. The more aligned you are with your own soul and with your own intuition, the more these readings are going to resonate. So if you need to go ahead and pause the video and come back to you in the personal way that you do that, go ahead and do that. Feel free. And this timestamps will be down below whenever you come back to us. Let's get right in to your reading here. So for pile 1, if you chose empathy, there's more beneath the surface. So we are getting messages from your mermaids. Again, this is the water elemental reading for all you empaths and light workers out there. How is your emotionality your superpower? So there's more beneath the surface. Does that describe you? Let's find out. So we're going to start off here with some oracle cards that I have chosen from several different decks here. So let's do 1, let's do 2, and let's do 1 more. Okay, and then we will move into tarot. So you've got the Bard, music, poetry, myth, history, the enchantment of storytelling. And you've got the Water Fairy, feelings and emotions. And you've got the new moon, promise. So the one thing that's coming up for you guys, your superpower, is that there is more beneath the surface. You are absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, an observer, watching, one step in life, one step out. And that's worked for you in many ways, because the way in which you've wanted to be in the world sort of shifts and changes, and you make your own sort of luck, you make your own way in the world, you definitely travel or beat to your own drum. And so the way in which you observe the world, you can get far more from it by observing it in your own way. And then there are certain times when you decide to sort of get in there and do what you want to do when you feel safe and comfortable. That's great for you too. But for now, whether this is real or not, there is a lot of you that have decided that not everyone's going to get your sense of humor, not everyone's going to get who you are. So you choose the times where you feel as though you will be highlighted for who you are, and that's when you sort of come out of your shell, for want of a better term, and show yourself in your totality. Which is absolutely a wonderful way to be, really, because not everyone's going to get you, and that's totally fine. I actually just wrote a blog on this. If you're not following me on Instagram, the details are down below, about authenticity, insofar as that if you decide to be authentic in this world, not everyone's going to like you. That's just a given. That's a given. Some people will move towards you, some people will move away from you. So this is something that you've realized, either sort of in terms of subconscious, because you picked up on it because you're very, very sensitive, or that you actually consciously realize this. Either way, it's pretty much on the surface. So when you feel as though it's safe for you to come out and show yourself, that's what you do. But because you have this incredible storytelling talent, or you have this incredible sort of creativity in some way, you know, the way in which you observe the world and the way in which you show up on your own terms absolutely works for you and provides you with that superpower. And also with your feelings and emotions, it's really good for you to get an idea of how they're working. Your feelings and emotions, you know, sometimes for some of you, they've sort of overridden you, and they've become, you know, at times you've been quite overwhelmed by them because they come up as a warning when something's happening. Like you might feel a little bit ill before something happens, or, you know, nauseated or something. They have worked as a triggering system for you in order to protect you. So whether you realize that was happening or not, but most of you, even if you didn't realize at the beginning that that was happening, you understand this about yourself now. So your feelings and emotions have worked for you in a very protective manner, or in a place to let you know that, you know, this circumstance isn't really quite working, or this person isn't really going to see you in a way that will not work in the situation, in the way that, you know, they could throw a spanner in the works, so it's best to back off. So they've worked as a filtering system for you. And now for some of you that didn't really work, or that didn't feel that great, because you felt like, oh, these emotions and these feelings were coming up and they were overwhelming for you. And they came out of nowhere, and there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for them. And then after the fact, you were like, oh, I can see X equals Y, or 2 and 2 equals 4. This is why this happened. This is the outcome. So they become a little bit of, you know, in the past, they've been a little bit of a mystery to you, which didn't always work for you. But now you realize that they're working for you in every way, shape, or form. And they really do understand before you do. They are sort of your gauge in a way, and the way in which you sort of, I keep getting this vision of a boat, how you're sailing, which direction you're sailing. They can give you an idea of how far you're moving, and if you're moving in the right direction. So this is your superpower also. And also the other side of it is that you do show up in authenticity. But there's a way in which you can work your personality, because you don't show yourself completely all of the time, and that's fine. And it's, you know, not to sound unworthy or anything for anyone else, but not everybody's worthy of seeing the true authentic you, because it takes a lot of energy to be you. So you don't always show up in sort of full blast, as it were. But when it's not even a case of proving themselves. When in the past you may have sort of had people prove themselves in a little way, because, you know, that's not a bad thing to do, especially in like relationships, give them little tests or this, that, and the other. But when you feel as though it's the right time to really step up and be you, then you'll do that. But not everybody gets every part of yourself. You can shift different aspects of self to suit each situation. Not exactly a chameleon, because you're not exactly hiding yourself. You're just showing what is needed at the moment. And you've worked this to your advantage. Now, if you're a chameleon, then you've kind of lost a sense of self. Some people do this on purpose, some people don't. You know, if you're doing this consciously, that's a choice that you've made. If you're doing it unconsciously, you want to fit in, you want everybody to like you. It means that you're showing different aspects of yourself based on the situation, based on the energy that's in and around you. You don't do that. You will pull out certain aspects of personality, absolutely, but you always hold who you are, knowing that that aspect of your personality, almost like a jewel, will be shown in the right situation. So, and that way you don't exert too much energy, and that way you can keep hold of your power. So you've used that as a superpower too. Now, again, that doesn't always work for everybody, because chameleons can kind of lose sense of themselves, but it's worked for you. You've made it work for you. And if it didn't work for you at the beginning, you've built that firm foundation of yourself, of really understanding who you are, and coming into this energy of really admitting to yourself that, you know, hey, I'm doing this a little bit differently to everybody else. And your work shows it. The way in which you actually properly 100% show up in the world shows it. You are quirky. You do show a different side of yourself. You do show a different side in general of what can be achieved in this lifetime. You have an original aspect, an original aspect to your personality that really other people don't have. So you've used it to your advantage in this way. So underneath the Bard, you have the Knight of Cups. Again, we're just doing the cups for here, and then we're going to go into the major arcana. So you've been able to sort of fearlessly move into certain aspects of life and kind of take advantage of them, because you know at the end of the day you're sort of, it's not even protecting, but you're keeping the best part of yourself back. So there's a part of you that, you know, doesn't really mind, you know, sort of head on in, just seeing, you know, trying things on. For some of you, this may not be for absolutely all of you, but some of you might have been obsessed with the idea of sort of destroying yourself and coming back, and destroying yourself and coming back. Almost like, you know, let's see, if I put everything into this and it doesn't work out, that's fine. You almost have this phoenix from the ashes kind of rising out, because there's a part of you that really understands the eternal aspect of life. And there's a part of you that isn't afraid of death. So it really allows you to live in a certain way. And then you have that observer sort of personality, which is absolutely gorgeous. So you move in a different direction. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. You know, and there are sometimes you're, oh, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I did that. And you have aspects of your personality like that. But you've come to terms with that too. You're like, fuck it. You know, next day I'll do something different. So this energy of sort of moving through things, getting through things, trying things on for the hell of it, not knowing whether they're going to work out or not, is really an energy that you're coming into. And again, that is your mantra in some ways. There's much more of you beneath the surface. You know, in the past, it used to bother you a little bit that not everybody could see who you were. But then you realize that later on, or just figuring yourself out, you realize that you're sort of an acquired taste. And it's okay that not everybody gets all of you. That's perfectly fine. In the past, as an empath, you might have had that martyr thing where you gave yourself so much to people that people took advantage. So there might have been this part of you that pulled yourself back and then was sort of closed off for a while. And then you realized this, and you've done this. This is part of the Phoenix of the Ashes thing. This all or nothing, this one way of doing things and then another way of doing things. And this is you in the middle of not everybody's going to get absolutely all of you, but that's fine. The right people will, you know, rather than being so open that everybody got something from you and then they took advantage, and then being so closed down that you felt disconnected from everything. Another thing that's coming up for you is that you've started to realize that your power is within you. We say this a lot on this channel, but but people don't really understand this as an actual basis where, you know, the reality that you create is absolutely the reality that you will see on the external. This is something that you've been messing around with and working around with probably in the last 6 months up into 18 months too. And you're really understanding that the way in which you see the world changes the way in which you see yourself. They're synonymous, they're one and the same. So this is something that you've been working on. You've really been actively working on self-expression, self-advancement in some way, but self-acceptance on every level, and not showing that sort of, and not being afraid to show that quirky aspect of self sometimes when it comes out. You do have that sort of, that brilliant sense of humor that's a little bit, you beat to your own drummer. You're a little bit different. So for the water fairy, you have the Three of Cups. It's all about community and finding people like you. And for you, it is about this connectedness that you feel in the world and finding people like you. And you find that when you actually express yourself in a very specific way to the right kind of people, that really opens up these doors for you, much more than if you're just completely open and just letting people or having people react to you sort of willy-nilly. So your advancement is all about opening up to the right circumstances, opening up to the right people. And that's totally fine for you. As we said, you're moving out of this understanding of closing yourself off out of protection. Boundaries are still very important, and you're working through that. You're understanding that. You have a lot more boundaries than you did before. But this is about finding your soul family that is coming in and around you. For a lot of you, you're starting to get the energy of other people being like you, like literally just like you. And for a lot of you, you didn't feel that way growing up. You know, you may have been very popular in some ways because you have this chameleon aspect to yourself, and you knew how to play to a crowd. But being accepted for exactly who you are is something that you haven't really had, and it's something that you're dying to have in this world. And of course, you realize that most of that stems from you accepting yourself, and this is something that you've been working on. So you're seeing the reflective moments from the interior work that you're doing, seeing it expressed in the exterior world. So you've got this new moon coming up, and you've got this Eight of Cups. You're starting off on this journey of really, really getting out there and doing things on your own terms. Now, this is really important. It's also really exciting in different ways, because the way in which you work, you can't really figure out where you're going to end up, because the way in which you move and the way in which you are in the world, it's a little bit difficult for you to sort of hone in on how it's going to look. Some people, they have a very practical mindset. They move forward. I do this, I do that. I'll get this result. I'll get that result. And yes, the universe will certainly open it up, and it'll appear a little bit differently when it actually comes into your world. But for the most part, you have an idea of where you're going. For you, you have this understanding of just opening up and just letting it be and seeing where it goes. That's not to say that you were just willy-nilly on your path. You've clicked into your blueprint. You know why you're here. But, you've really recently opened up to the fact that you don't know what this is going to look like. You've also realized on many levels that whatever it is that you've asked for and whatever it is that you can actually achieve are probably two different things. So you're leaving it up to the universe. You're surrendering in that way, knowing that you've done all the work to propel yourself forward. I wanted to say push, but it's not been that way. It's felt like a push before, but now you're propelling yourself forward, and whatever you do right now can be magical. So you've decided to go off in this new direction. And again, it's not aimless, but it's not the way that most people work. And this is something that you had to live with, and this is something that you had to figure out for yourself. Because it used to bother you in the past, or for some of you, you don't do things the way that other people do things. And it's not that you wanted to be like everybody else, but there was a part of you that felt like so much on the outside. You figured if you were a little bit more like everybody else, then maybe you wouldn't feel like such an outsider. So what you had to do was really figure out how to embrace the fact that you feel like an outsider. And the minute you embrace that, you started to come into this energy of the soul family coming in. Now, some of you haven't met all the soul family that's coming in for you, although you will have remnants of them sort of all over the world, whether they're online or in and around you. You've always had people to sort of to mirror who you are one way or another. But the actual soul family that you're coming into will be coming in and around. The more you open up to certain aspects and in certain environments, and the more you show yourself and your vulnerability, the more these people will be coming in. And again, they might be coming in from different aspects of what you do, because again, the path you choose can be a little bit quirky. So they might be coming in from places or circumstances that you never could have foretold. And that's totally fine too. You have a magical element to yourself. So you have the devil. This is the past element of who you are. Now, the devil, for some of you, it meant that, coming out of addictions, or coming out to the addiction of not feeling as though you were good enough because you were constantly comparing yourself to how other people did things. This is something that you're away from, though. This is something that you have embraced, and you've decided to do this. And also the part of it is that, we've talked about this on the channel quite a bit, especially recently. You do understand the depths of how people can take themselves to quote unquote hell, how we do this on on a personal level. You've done it yourself. You can see it in other people. You can hold compassion for other people when they've done that, because we create our own hell on earth. So this is something that you hold within you. This is something that comes up in your creative process. This is something that you can do to really help people come back to the essence of who they are, to self-accept exactly who they are and what they are, perceivedly what they are, without having to compare themselves to the world. This is something that is in your blueprint, for people to accept themselves exactly who they are, no matter what past they've had, no matter what action they've taken before. It doesn't matter. The universe genuinely, from the bottom of its heart, it never, never judges. We judge. As humans, we judge. The universe doesn't judge. So this is a very important part that's coming up for you, that's infused in how you work with your blueprint and how you will step up and help others in the world. You have the Lovers here too. So, coming in and around people. Now, the Lovers for a card is coming into two aspects of the self, really the divine feminine, the divine masculine that you've been working on in your own way. And you really do have that essence now of that balance, and coming into that two sides of when you want to be seen and when you want to pull back as your superpower, and being able to use that as a superpower. But for some of you, this really is a counterpart coming in. For some of you, this is a soulmate coming in. For some of you, this is coming in because you're opening yourself up one way or another, and that essence, you're pulling that essence to you. It could be that, in and around the soul family, you will meet your significant other. It's all about opening up, but doing this on your own terms and staying very firm in those own terms, but at the same time being extremely flexible. Again, there's more beneath the surface. You're only going to open yourself up to certain people when the time is right. Not everybody deserves all of your energy. Honestly, that's the way you see it, and that's the way it is, and it should be. Because when you give your all, you give everything. So it's important to protect that. Now, before you protected it so much, you shut down. You're not doing that. You're absolutely open to this new path. So this counterpart could be coming in very quickly. This counterpart could have just come in and around you. And this could be also talking about you coming into this real self-acceptance aspect of self, which is absolutely wonderful. That really causes you to move forward in the way that you want to. It's almost like all the doors are opening for you now. Underneath the Eight of Cups, absolutely, you've got the new moon promised here, and you've got the moon card, which is absolutely beautiful. Again, your mantra is there's more beneath the surface. So for you, it really is about the mysteries of life, how we do things. Not everything is done in the daylight. The moon gives off beautiful light at night, and that's illuminating to you too. For you, this could be ritual, how you interpret the world, how you work your own specific energy with the world, how you meld it in your own way. For some of you, there might be spell crafting, but that's really just energy, law of attraction, working with that, how your energy works to bring in abundance. You've also got, of course, those alchemy, transmuting aspects of self. For some of you, a very, very strong mind and a very, very strong will. So again, not using it against yourself, but embracing everything, putting your own energy first, which is very important for you. So yeah, you have hidden depths to you, which you're only finding out about, which is absolutely wonderful. But this is absolutely proved without a shadow of a doubt to be your superpower, and using it in a way that makes sure that you use it as a superpower and not against yourself. And again, comparing yourself to anybody or any situation will not work for you, because you work so differently in this world. It'll take you down this spiral that you just won't be able to come out of. You'll only be able to come out of when you cut the cords to trying to do that and compare yourself to other people and come back to you. So let's get one more from your mermaids here. Let's end turbulence. The mind is murky in rough waters, and that's what you've been working with too, getting your mind out of these rough waters, out of this all or nothing way of seeing yourself or comparing yourself and trying to be sort of quote unquote normal. You're not, and that's fine. What's considered normal, it's now shifting, but what's been considered normal has just been absolutely ridiculous on this earth. So no wonder you didn't feel like you fitted in. God love you. So this is with the devil. coming in and around that. So you've got flow. Yes, you've gone from turbulence, you've gone from doing what you did to really understanding that there's no need to hurt yourself. There's no need to think badly of yourself or to judge yourself. From this turbulent thinking to this flow, let your worries drift away. And this really comes back to this Eight of Cups on your own journey, letting everything flow in the surrender, but also feeling at the same time that you have this sort of control and the very least how you show up, and in the superpower that you have with using all of your beautiful emotionality, which runs incredibly deep. It really does, and it connects you to this beautiful energy and this unseen energy, pulling it up to the forefront, which is what we need in this world. So yeah, this new beginning of doing things on your own terms and really stepping into your power the way in which you want to, and and accepting that you're going to have a slightly different life. You're going to do things differently, but you're always going to end up successfully the way in which you want to do it. You don't have to start at the bottom, and for those of you who are saying, I've left this a little bit late, or I've not done things that in the right way, but now I feel as though I'm behind. Your timing factor is completely different to everybody else's. Again, that's comparing yourself. Don't do it. It's not going to work for you. Keep up with that flow, keep up with that Knight of Cups energy of moving forward, and just be you as you move forward. So that's what we have for you, Pile 1, your beautiful superpower. So much depth to you. Keep that with you. We are sending you so much love and support for exactly who you are and where you are in the world right now. Go be you, and until we meet again. Bye-bye. All right, lovely Pile 2 or Mermaid 2. Your Mermaid card is Voyage. Set sail on a new course, a brand new beginning waiting for you. So we are going to start off with some oracle cards here to get you some more information about your water element reading, messages from your mermaids for all you empaths and light workers specifically. How is your emotionality your superpower? Feeling these two. All right, let's see what we got for you. With your Voyage, you have Joy. New Promise, or it's New Moon Promise, that came up at the third card of Pile 1, and Truth. So this is an element of something that's come in for you. And we say this, you hear this all over YouTube and in the spiritual community, but this is something that you've really understood, that whatever you create in your life is absolutely wonderful. Like any kind of success and abundance of money, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that's not really what you're here to do in this lifetime. That is something that comes out of the joy that you have in your life. And this is something that's really clicked in for you now, which is kind of a wonderful thing, because you're not focusing on the specific thing that you believe is going to bring you joy, because you know it won't. But that's not to say that you won't be abundant and have this magical life. That's not to say that you won't be successful in this lifetime. It is literally a byproduct of how you are and how you show up in the world. So your emotionality is the way in which you show your superpower is understanding that it is about joy, and it is about coming back to one's truth and understanding who they are. For you, there's this sort of obsession with the truth, that this is this is something that could have confused you along the way, because you're obsessed with the idea of truth and people telling the truth. And it took you a really long time to realize that people make up their own reality, and somebody else's truth may not be your truth. But there is a universal truth as such, and there are laws to the universe and abundance and things like that. But that's not exactly what we're talking about. So you've sort of shifted your mind to like sort of finding out the original truth and working with your own truth, which has brought you back to your emotionality and your superpower. When you're not trying to figure it out for the whole world, right, for the whole universe, it's much easier to figure out who you are. And you realize again that what you're seeking is only a byproduct of joy and what you want to do. So clicking into your beautiful blueprint and what it is that you're supposed to do and living in your truth is what brings in the success and everything else, which of course can be enjoyed when it comes in. This idea that you're spiritual, if you're spiritual, you can't be rich or you can't have money is absolutely ridiculous, and we would never say that. You can have both, and in this lifetime this is something that you're trying to balance out, that you intend to balance out, because there's a part of you that when you do something, you want to do it well. You want to be the head of your game. You want to be the one known for doing what you do. You are a high reacher. You want to excel in whatever you put your energy into. Now, it seems like, well, of course they do. Most people do. Not necessarily. People are interested in showing up, doing what they do, getting their money, going home, whatever. And, no judgment. That's perfectly fine. That's a nice, supposedly easy life, right? That's not for you. And in fact, in many ways, you've made your life a little bit more difficult by showing up in a certain way, and trying things on. And you've had a lot of ups and downs in this lifetime, trying to figure out, the universe's truth versus your truth, and getting to the truth of matters, regardless of whether, you've gone to school and be traditionally trained. You're always sort of finding new information, and there's an aspect of you that's quite flexible. Insofar as I saw a quote the other day, I can't remember if it's Albert Einstein, and obviously I'm paraphrasing, but somebody who believes they know everything is purely ignorant. This is something that you've realized from the beginning, that when you've secured a truth for yourself, even that can be shifted, and you sort of pride yourself on that and understand that, because you're always flowing and moving and developing, and this is a wonderful way to be in the world. So your life has never been boring, one way or another. And if it is boring, it's because you pulled yourself out of circumstances and you need that rest. So it's boring on purpose, and then you'll be like, all right, I'm kind of bored. Let's move forward and do this. But your new beginning and your superpower is all about really fundamentally understanding that when you live in joy, when you live in that present moment, and when you live in your own truth, regardless of how that works in the present, in the world's truth, when you own that truth completely, there's a peacefulness that comes to you, and you can really access the depths of your emotionality. That access is that superpower. And then you can flow with the divine, and then everything that you could want, or everything that you consider sort of not just beautiful, but money, success, all of that other stuff, again, just comes to you. So before, the way in which you would do things is you would chase things. This understanding you've got to work hard. Obviously you've got to take action, divine action, to move forward. You've taken a lot of action. You've got a lot of passion. You've got a lot of power. That's not it. But sometimes you've taken these energies and you've moved forward. And because you're so depth, you got that deep ocean of emotionality, and then you're like, I don't know why I'm here, what I'm doing. Did I really want this? So now you've realized that really coming into that peacefulness of your own truth, you're now nudged into this divine sort of moving forward, this really, this intuitive action, which means that you don't have to work as hard. It means that, things are, you're the attractor, you're the magnet now, and you're attracting what you need. And before, you were running after it and chasing it. And of course, the more you chase it, the more it runs away. And part of you liked that. Part of you liked the sort of chasing, because it was sort of an angle of how you moved your life, because you always needed to be moving one way or another. But now you're sort of doing the opposite. You move when you need to, and you rest when you don't. So let's get you some more information. As we said at the beginning, we are working with the Cups energy here. And then we are working with the Major Arcana. So yeah, coming into this new way of being is just gorgeous for you, because it's a long time coming in a way, because it's sort of the opposite to how you worked before. And, the way in which you worked before, it was never boring, but it came in with mixed results, and it definitely exerted a lot of energy, and it didn't really fuse your emotionality with this understanding that you had a superpower. So the way that you're living now, yeah, you've got the Magician under joy, knowing that you're the magnet, you're the transmuter of energy. Taking that divine action, absolutely, moving in flow with the universe, but really understanding and solidifying your own truth, which of course can shift and change at any time. But it also mirrors the universal truth, because there is universal truth. Yes, everybody has their own truth based on the reality that they create for themselves. And as soon as they create that reality, they will see all sorts of different evidence out in the external world that absolutely backs up the reality that they've created. That's why that once you've honed in on something, that's all you'll see. So this is something that you've realized, not having to take in the world's truth, standing in your own truth, and not needing to understand why people move in a certain direction and choose what they do. You know, the depths of who you are, the empathic aspect of you can see deep into somebody's soul. So you can see people's trauma. You can see the way in which they've moved before. Now, you know, everybody chooses. We've all been through a certain amount of trauma, some more than others, and we've all handled it differently. That doesn't mean that it gives them, you know, a wide berth or, you know, the confidence to act like an Aegis, you know. And this is something that you've realized. But, you know, it's not about judging anybody and how they've chosen, how they've navigated their lives. It's about bringing that energy back to you, because you realize that when you start doing that and you start judging from the external, then it takes away your power. It takes away your peace. So your power and your superpower comes from peace in this lifetime, really equating to your truth and your joy, really becoming that magnet for everything else that you want, but not directly going for the success, not directly going for the money. The minute that you directly go for money or you go for success, it doesn't happen. You know, or you get all that money, you don't know where it's gone. You know, it doesn't work for you. Now, for some people, it does. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. You know, they put down a site, I want an X amount of money, I want to do this, I want to do that. It works perfectly well for them. For you, it's counterproductive. It's not going to work. Whatever all these jewels are coming in for you, it needs to be a byproduct of what it is that you do. You need to put your joy and your truth first, and then everything comes in really without you asking, because you're acting as a magnet. And that is the depth of your superpower. So with your new beginning, you've got the Page of Cups, and with truth, you've got the Four of Cups. So it's really, really staying in your power of knowing your own truth, and also knowing that you know enough to move forward, being the person that you are. Now, you shift and change all the time. Not exactly like a chameleon, you constantly stay yourself, but you can shift and change in different circumstances, which makes you amenable to the flow of life, right? You're not inflexible in that way. If something happens, in fact, that could have gone against you a little bit, because you can acclimate to any situation, which means sometimes you dumbed yourself down and let yourself accept situations that were lesser than, where you could have gone for more. You could have been around better people, or you could have gotten a better situation job-wise, because you actually work really well in any situation. You can make any situation work for the most part, you know. There's when you get to a certain aspect of the situation, there's some aspects of it you won't be able to change, but you will make the most of it. But you've taken that, and your truth is to have the most beautiful, magical, gorgeous life. And this, again, comes back when you accept your magic, you accept your truth, you accept who you are, and you know that the way that you do things may not look the same to everybody else. People in the past may have looked down at you, thought you were a little bit immature because of the way that that's childlike quality that you have, or the way in which you work in the world. That's fine. An aspect of them could have been a little bit jealous. Regardless, we don't need to go into how other, the energy of other people, but it doesn't really matter, because taking that energy in, you realize that this way of being in the world, this sort of childlike center, which you've just really come into. You've been doing a lot of inner child work and integrating that, and really coming back front and center to have this inner child really navigate how you're moving forward. And that's really important too, because if we don't have this childlike wonder, you won't be able to navigate this life the way in which you've chosen to do this. And this is something that you might have clicked into pretty quickly. You've wanted to do it. There's an essence of you that did it. But this is a way of being that you've decided to do. So when you go back to the old way of doing things, of trying to move forward and going for that money or going for that success, it's not going to work for you. Again, it might work for other people. It won't work for you. Or you're going to work so hard, you're going to burn yourself out getting there. So letting the energy come to you, standing in your own truth, standing in your own peace, knowing who you are. Don't mind if people are looking down at you going, I don't know what this kid is doing. This is crazy. Or you're so naive. You're this, that, and the other. That's fine. Let them do it. You know, that's one thing that you can do when you stand in your own energy and your truth and you know who you are. You really do let things wash off you like a duck's back. That sounded weird. You know the saying, not quite like that. Water off a duck's back. That's it. Whereas before that may have hurt you or may have gotten to you a little bit before. You might even have been slightly defensive about that because, you know, people pointing out that you weren't really like everybody else, or you did things differently, or you didn't have an idea of how the world works. Of course, that's going to get under your skin because it comes back to this age-old not being seen for who you are. And a lot of you weren't growing up. So, you know, it hurt. It really hurt. But this is something that you've moved through. The wounds have healed. You're still working with this in the energy. And every now and again, you might get a trigger of somebody treating you that way. All you need to do is come back to your own individual truth and your own peace, which comes from joy in that moment and knowing that you've chosen this way of living for yourself and it absolutely works for you. And one of the main reasons why you know it works for you is because when you've done it the other way, how everybody else does it, you don't get the results that you want, or it's really frustrating. It doesn't work for you. You know, you have that practical edge to you without a shadow of a doubt. You've moved forward in that way and it just doesn't work. So you're not going to do it and keep, what is it, the understanding of madness, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You've done that. You're not doing that anymore. You've embraced the fact that you're doing this in this way and searching and knowing your own truth and standing in that truth. But again, being flexible to how that shifts and changes and also honoring other people's truth, but working with the universal truth, which does have laws. And works within that. And that is your emotionality. That is your superpower, being able to work in this way. And this is how you are working. So this is the major arcana now. Let's get you a little bit more information. We have the moon, which came up in pile 1, sort of on the third card of pile 1. So you have hidden depths. And of course, you have this beautiful, the sun energy, and then you have judgment. So you have this beautiful essence of the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming in together. The divine masculine going out in that action that you did before, having, you know, varied different results, coming back with the divine feminine, moving into that divine action, being nudged. And again, that may not make sense to a lot of people, but it really works for you. And it also takes you on this sort of magical path that you could never have predicted, which is something that you're interested in. Before, there was an essence of you that was very practically minded. You know, if we do this, we'll do that, we'll get this result. There was a part of you that was okay with that. But now you want this magical life. You actually don't want everything to be on paper to see where you're going. You actually want to shift and change that. You're also here to make sure that things change. You want to leave this world much better than it was coming in. And, you know, we're all shifting into this new earth. We've just shifted into the age of Aquarius. Of course, that's happening now. The world is going to be different in 30 years in your lifetime, depending on how old you are or how long you are on this earthly realm. Whenever you go home. So it's about making things better. It's about stepping up. And one of the ways in which you do that is that you show the depth of who you are without shame. And this is a really huge thing for you. So you're showing your superpower actually and saying, this is a superpower. This is my emotionality. This is how I live. I've garnered these results, which are going to be magical. This is a new path that you're starting. It's absolutely bright, but you also have this depth of field that pile 1 had, very different energy. But pile 1 had too, hidden depth, this magician element of, I don't know how things are going to work out, but it's going to be absolutely brilliant, knowing that however you think things are going to work out, they're going to be 1,000 times better because the universe is going to step up and match your energy. So if your energy is expansive, that's what they're going to give you. So making sure that other people stand in their own energy, in their own truth, in their own beauty, with this gorgeous flexibility, really claiming their emotionality and their vulnerability. This is what you're going to stand for. Now, there's many different ways that you can integrate this into your actual blueprint, through creativity or creative means, music, working with children, writing, all sorts of different things, even in the medical field, all sorts of different things that you fuse different ways of thinking. But you will stand for this in your actual life, the way in which you actually live and the way in which you actually show up on a day-to-day basis. This is the main way that you're doing this. This is the main way that you're showing people that this is a superpower. And you've come from the other side of it. So you know what it's like when you push. You know what it's like when you're not working with the divine masculine, but the masculine, and you're just moving forward. You know what it's like when you enter into this divine feminine of this beautiful way of flowing and listening to the divine masculine that needs to take action, that holds the divine feminine absolutely gorgeously together and protects her as she moves forward and garners these beautiful results. And also living with uncertainty in the way that, not everything's going to be certain. This is something that you come into. This is something that you're very good at, going with the flow. And if you weren't good at it before, you're coming into it. This is your new beginning. So teaching people, standing in that energy, just, by the evidence of how you are in the world, just showing people that it is possible and you can still be grounded and wonderful and beautiful and have your off days too, have your ups and downs, but still always come back to your truth. Just standing in that energy creates this sort of beauty where people are inspired to be themselves. So this is your gorgeous superpower. Let's go ahead and end with some beautiful messages from your mermaids again. Let's get you one more message. So this is a new path for you. So if this is brand new, initially there might be some ups and downs. There might be some, moving out of old energy. Don't get too far into this old energy of going down the rabbit hole, as we say here. So much needs to be done. Absolutely not at all. Let everything flow out. Give yourself a couple of days if you can. Don't worry about what needs to be done. If you're in that stage before you move on physically to the next stage, things are coming up. Just let them go. It's not anything that you need to worry. There you go. Dive. You don't find pearls on the seashore. This is something that you figured out. You're all about diving in this lifetime. You've dove many different ways, and now this is the way that you're diving now. So if the old is leaving, let it leave. Give yourself some time. Stay in that joy. Stay in that truth. As we say, this too shall pass. It's nothing that you need to dive into. It's certainly nothing that you need to sort of open up wounds again or anything like that. It's energy that's seeping out. Let it go. Beyond just sort of honoring it as it leaves, you don't need to give it any more energy. And then this new beginning, this new way of being will develop and really solidify as you move forward. So go, that beautiful superpower, keep it with you in your own truth. We are sending you so much love and support for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. Take care of yourself. Beautiful Pal 2 or Mermaid 2. Until we meet again. Bye-bye. Okay, gorgeous Pal 3. So if you chose Mermaid 3 or Pal 3, optimism. After each rainstorm, there will be clear skies. So again, this is your water elemental reading, messages from your mermaids for mainly empaths and light workers, for anybody really, particularly for empaths though. How is your emotionality, your superpower, gorgeousness? Let's go ahead and get you some oracle cards to start off with. And then we will move on to other cards, tarot. All right, so here we go. You have a movement and you have movement. Oh my goodness. And you have risk. Gorgeous. So coming into that optimism again, moving into this new way of being and solidifying that new way of being, putting your energy first. And, things might have been stagnant for a while. You might have been in that void, that womb energy of, the last remnants of trying to figure things out. And really what it was is trying to figure out how your energy is working and how you're going to move with your emotionality, how you're going to instigate that emotionality, how you're going to move in the world. You realize that your energy was brilliant, but the way in which you used it was not working necessarily on optimum level. We talked very briefly in pile 2 about this energy of, receptive energy, of inviting in this beautiful energy rather than just going for it. The difference between aligned and divine action versus just action and spinning your wheels. So understanding that there's many different ways to move. The river moves differently than an ocean. Rivers usually do move, and then you have sort of the ocean aspect of self where it doesn't move as much, but it's the volume is there, the depth is there. So taking in every aspect of yourself, every aspect of your emotionality, and understanding the depth of it for yourself. Now, you've had a lot of people your entire life try to figure you out. 9 times out of 10, they get it wrong because it's projection. Because, people want to figure out who you are. And on the surface, it may seem that it might be easy to figure you out, but it really, really isn't. You've got those hidden depths there. So you've had a lot of projections upon you in your life, and you've had to deal with those one way or another. And in the past, you realize a lot of those projections were because you put up with those projections. You didn't really call people on it, and it's not a case of that's not me or being really huffy about it, but it's more a case of standing in your own energy. When people sort of project upon you, they put their essence on you, and it's about taking that essence and either cleansing yourself from that essence or giving that essence back and saying, okay, if that's what you see, I honor that, but not taking on that essence. As people projected upon you, you kept that essence. You didn't cleanse yourself from it. So this could have been quite confusing for you about who you are and how you move in the world. Or if it wasn't confusing for you, then, the way in which you moved in the world, you constantly doubted yourself, even though it was your right to move any way you wanted to, but you doubted yourself because the essence of people projecting upon you constantly sort of took you a little bit further away from how you saw yourself. Some of you may have gone to the point where you started seeing yourself the way that other people saw you. And again, 9 times out of 10, they were just incorrect. They were wrong. It was projection, or they would do this thing where they would pick up something that's really obvious and then hone in a way that they think that they're being really insightful, but they're not, to be perfectly honest. So coming back to you, understanding your emotionality and also standing in your power. Again, it doesn't need to be, oh, that's not me. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't have to speak to people like that. And you can just smile and let people say what they want, but there's an essence of how you work with that mentality and that energy of silently giving that projection back. So what you've been doing is you've been cleansing yourself from those projections to move forward. And you know that when you move forward, you're ready to take those risks because you believe in yourself now because you're not being projected upon anymore. So there's been a cleansing off this energy, and there's this really sort of finite energy of really claiming your emotionality as a superpower and knowing that you have those hidden depths, and that not everybody's going to see you and not everybody's going to get you, and that people who think that they see you, and they usually do it, sometimes it's been done in a little bit of a smug way. Oh, I know who you are, and they don't, and that's okay. It's not about proving to them that they don't know you, but it is about standing in your own energy about, it's okay to say you don't have a clue about what you're talking about. You don't have to say it to their face, of course. Just holding, giving back that energy of projection is more than enough. If somebody's projecting upon you, they're giving their energy and they're sort of bullying your energy in a way, which is, being really, really obvious just to show you how it is, not trying to be dramatic. But let's just say, somebody's projecting upon you, they're doing it for a certain way. Sometimes it's done to sort of dumb you down a little bit. Sometimes it's done because they want to control how they see you, or it's really important for them to put you in a box because you seem a little bit weird to them, whatever, the reason for doing it. Once that energy is upon you, it can integrate into the system. So all you need to do, as we said before, a nice little smile, but consciously give back that energy. You don't need it. It was incorrect. You don't need to take it on. A lot of you have been sponges, so you've taken on energy that you didn't need to before. And again, it's confused who you were. And a lot of you could be like, bordering on not feeling good about yourself anyway, or just an essence of you that didn't believe that you could really get what you wanted, and this, that, and the other. And honestly, your self-confidence has always been there. If you've been, flaky about this, that, and the other because you didn't know if you were good enough, a lot of that could have been the projections that were sort of integrated into your system. Giving that back and cleansing puts you in this movement, and you know that you're good enough to do whatever it is that you want. You've never put yourself in a position to fail. You don't mind failing. You don't really, failing doesn't really exist to you, which is absolutely wonderful. But if you go for something, you're going to go for something because you know you can do it. So, and sometimes you get out of your depth of field where you're like, I'm going to try and do this, but you always land on your feet. So you do have this element of confidence. But if you've been doubting yourself, it's because this energy that's been in and around you. So cleansing that, actively cleansing that, and also taking back your energy. You can go back in each and every circumstance. I would not suggest in any way, shape, or form involving those people again and getting them involved. That's not what we're saying. No, trust us. It's not the way to do it. But taking every instance that you were projected upon and actually saying in your mind, that's not true, and then put that energy back. Give that energy back to them. It could have been 20 years. It could have been 25 years. And do it and click off that energy immediately. Cut that cord, pull that cord off, and you're done. Cleanse that energy, come back to yourself. And then you will be really, really clicking into that optimism that you had before, that self-honesty that you had before, and that self-confidence that you've always had, but somewhere along the line's been dumbed down to other people. It may have been the people that you grew up with, not in an abusive, necessarily terrible way. Maybe you came into a situation where you were seen and not heard. Not all of you would have been. We're just giving you examples. But somewhere that you weren't seen, or when you expressed yourself, or when you were, showing who you were seen as bossy, or, that sort of thing. So again, the projection of how you should be seen, how you should show up in the world, may have shown you something that just isn't true at the beginning. And then you had all these projections that merely brought out some insecurity. But you were actually born with security. You were born with, even when you were younger, you had that self-confidence, you had that notion, you had that element of risk. But somewhere along the line, you decided sort of to chill out a little bit, and you started taking a few less risks, or you took really specific risks when your back was up against the wall and there was no other way to do it. And then they always worked out one way or another. But this is a way for you to risk every day, but not necessarily putting everything on the line. All right, I'm going to bet $1,000 on this one. No, not at all. This is risking with the proper movement, with the proper understanding, the confidence and the beauty of who you are. So this is getting out of your comfort zone. This is moving forward in a way that gives you that magical and beautiful life. So we've got some cups energy coming in for you, and then we'll go into the major arcana, getting you some more information here, but definitely movement forward. Pile 1 and 2, or Mermaid 1 and 2 had movement too. So this is the theme, definitely movement forward. So you've got the Page of Cups, which I believe came up in pile 2 for movement. And you have the Knight of Cups, beautiful. So yeah, and then you have the Six of Cups. So it really is about, for you, the way in which you move forward really is about this risk taking, this, all right, I may not quite have the qualifications, I may not quite have this, but I know I can do it. Because the way in which you've worked in the world, you may not have garnered the kind of qualifications that everybody else has, but people will employ you and people will bring you in because of the knowledge that you've had. You've lived a rich, full life, and your superpower is really understanding your emotionality. The way in which you show up in the world, the way in which you work with emotionality, and the way in which you can dissect yourself and put yourself back together. Very few people can do that, including CEOs that may have millions in the bank, but they're not self-discerning. They don't have a clue. You've gone out the other way. This is the work that you've been doing. People are going to hire you and give you authority based on that. Now, some of you also may have qualifications, and that's wonderful too. But if you haven't, listening to that movement and listening to that confidence of where it is that you'll want to move to, again, you've been working sort of in the background a little bit. So, as we've said here before, when you start getting that beautiful success, and you will, some people will be, who is this person? They seemingly came out of nowhere. You haven't. You've been working steadily, putting yourself forward this entire time. You've just been doing it on your own terms, sort of outside of the realm of everybody looking, right? And you've just done this a little bit differently, but you've earned your dues. You've done what you need to do. Now, for you, it's about building beauty on earth. This is your blueprint, building family, to be loved, to love. So, for you, certain people you will consider family without a shadow of a doubt. It's not about being, having the same last name or having the same bloodline. Certain people in your family, you will treat them like family. In fact, you may even be closer to some of those people than your own family members. Again, not for all of you, and a lot of you may not have really gotten on with your family growing up, but as you've gotten older, you've really come back into the nest and really understood. You may have left a little earlier, or you may have gotten out a little earlier, so you can get that objectivity. And then you've been able to see, as you've grown up, what other people have been through, and there might be some coming back into the family era, coming back and really bonding with people in a very different way, because you've moved. Not only have you moved, so you're seeing everything objectively, but you've done a hell of a lot of work on yourself, and you've cleared a lot of work, not just on yourself, but automatically from your bloodline too. So this will ease up on the bloodline for those of you who have not had the perfect bloodline, who have sort of struggled a little bit in their family growing up. You've healed a lot of that bloodline. So coming back into that family a little bit later on, or on your own terms, showing up for exactly who you are. And this is something that you've realized too. When you show up unapologetically for who you are, people do accept you a lot more. The way in which people projected upon you before is that you showed up with this mixed energy of not quite being in your own body, because you were used to the projections, and some of you had been dumbed down. So the minute you show up in this movement, knowing that depth of feel, knowing that your superpower is your emotionality, and you've done the work to be a stable person, you've done the work to not project upon others, right? Then you know in yourself that people automatically sort of they may like you or dislike you. We can't guarantee that everybody is going to like you just because you're standing in your truth. You could trigger people, you could do whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's not your concern. But they will accept you for who you are. And this will happen on a very basic family level if you are integrating back into that family bloodline a little bit later, if you were the one that, the sort of the black sheep of the family, for want of a better term, beat to their own drum, did their own thing, maybe left a little earlier, did whatever they needed to do. That won't be for absolutely every one of you, but it should resonate for some of you. But in either way, you did beat to your own drummer and do things your own way. And that you have in common with Pile 1 or Mermaid 1 and Pile 2 and Mermaid 2, although very different energy for each of these piles or mermaids today. So let's get you here some major arcana. So you have the High Priestess here with the Page of Cups. You have the Star, gorgeous. And then you have the Emperor. So again, we have that divine masculine, that divine feminine coming in, and working in different ways too. You were about balancing the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Now, there's nothing wrong with the essence of balancing. That's wonderful. But for most of you, you try to balance, and this is something that comes in and naturally balances and aligns when you come into the movement of who you are and when you really ground into your own truth. So you realize when you grounded into your own truth, the divine masculine and the divine feminine naturally aligned, and it worked differently for you. Sometimes you can be completely divine feminine in this receptivity that works for you. For most of you, you're here to align with the divine feminine, And to have that receptivity, which you have that magic, you can transmute that old energy, let all this beautiful energy come to you. Yes, divine movement. You're all about movement, but it's aligned movement. It's not forcing in any way. And then the divine masculine comes in by protecting the divine feminine and just making sure that nobody gets in your way while you're doing that. It may work a little bit differently. So the balance of the divine feminine, the divine masculine might be a little bit different, whereas your divine feminine's up here and your divine masculine, but without the divine masculine, really circulating and providing that really, really firm foundation for you, the divine feminine will not be able to do her work. So, you were trying to do this before, and that's not what you're here to do. You're here to do this, but it is aligned for you. This is how you work. You're not going to work the same as everybody else. Again, you have that in common with Pal 1 and Pal 2. So it's not a case of, I'm in the divine masculine now, let me go in the divine feminine. The divine masculine has provided this beautiful foundation of the knowledge of who you are and secures you in this depth of field of this emotionality and this vulnerability, so you can be receptive with the divine feminine energy and honestly go for exactly what you want. Most of you know what that is in a way, and you've been working toward it your entire life, planting seeds here and there. Now the seeds can be off in different directions. We promise you it all correlates and comes back together. You're here to do something big. And if you've had this notion since very, very young, you're definitely going to do it. So give yourself some time. Don't worry about how it's going to show up. Divine timing is absolutely an essence to who you are and how your blueprint works in this lifetime. You're not going to get things too early, because really at the end of the day, you're here to have movement and peace. So if you got things a bit too early, it would be overwhelming for you. The divine energy, the universe knows when to deliver it without a shadow of a doubt. And sometimes when you forced your hand, you've gotten things a little earlier and it's been uncomfortable for you. So you understand this. So you're here to divinely align with what it is that you're supposed to do, and you will absolutely achieve it. That will be a certain amount of success for some of you. And obviously whatever abundance comes in is a secondary source of what you're doing. But as we said, I think it was in Pal 1, maybe Pal 2, I'm not sure. If you try to go for the success, you might be, sort of pushed back a little bit. Staying in your own truth and really honing in and accepting every part of you. And again, accepting every part of you means respecting yourself. You're not a doormat. When people say, that's not really me, sorry, or no, I've never really done that, or whatever. Standing your ground. You don't need to be an ass about it, but standing your ground is what this beautiful energy of the divine masculine, that's protecting you. Because the minute you do that, you let that energy go. You come back to you, and then that confidence is instigated again. It's clicked into. It's that kinetic energy. It moves forward. So whatever it is, and each and every one of you will have a different version, will have something that they've come in to do, and it's something big, and it's to be, even for some of you, will be fame. I've come here to be very well known. And again, fame doesn't really matter to you. It's about being well known in the right circles for doing the good work, right? So, being really clear about that. But for some of you, it's being well known for what you do. Whatever it is, that is, and it will be different for each and every one of you. You're here to achieve that, and this is the way forward to be able to do that. So let's get you one more message from your beautiful mermaid here. Gorgeous mermaid. So stay with that optimism. You've absolutely got this. You are working differently than you've ever worked before. This that you've just clicked into, this new way of working, is going to work for you. It really is. Stay with it. You've got this. Direction. Trust your inner compass and find your bearings without a shadow of a doubt. And again, to reiterate, the way in which you move forward may not be forward. It could be here, zigzag all over the place, and that is fine. As long as you're listening to your inner truth and you're paying homage to your own movement, the way in which you move is fine. I mean, if you look at a river, it goes downstream, obviously, but then, go off in a brook here and we do this and we do that. That's fine. As long as you're honoring your direction, and some of you will love the divergence of going off in different directions and seeing where it ends up, because you are seeing the world as an activity, something to enjoy, something to go through. It's about the journey. This is another energy moment for you that you've clicked into. So it's not just about, A, getting to B and then enjoying B. It's about how you get to B and all of that other stuff. So the universe is supporting you in any way that you step forward. Once you step into this truth that you have and use this beautiful movement that you have, and again, take those calculated risks, the ones that are in line with your soul already, instead of just doing it, you know. Now, you could just do it. You are going to fall on your feet. You've done that before. This is not a novel way for you to start working. You can. And sometimes you can force your hand to do that. But remember, the universe wants to deliver to you not only what you're capable of working with, but what you know, something really, really big. If you force your hand, you will go for whatever you can get at that point. Sometimes it's best to hold out for what the universe is going to deliver for you, and you're happy to do that. So those calculated risks, listening, you'll feel it. Again, you're the magnet, allowing in this receptive energy of the divine feminine. The way in which you move, the way in which you see yourself, the way in which you look is all going to start shifting, if it hasn't already too, because you are really putting your energy front and center, which is something you've not always done. You've done it at certain times in your life, but you're doing it now. So you're going to inhabit your body differently. You're going to look physically different on the outside, and this is very exciting to you. So, you know, do up your hair, do something different, have fun, whatever you want to do, or don't, you know, whatever you want to do. If you're in that way and you want to change things up, or give yourself a new hairstyle, or donate all your clothes and start all again in some particular style, you know, this is on the exterior. This is the way that you're confirming who you are too. Have fun with it. No matter what you do, have fun with it. You're absolutely on the right path. So that's what we have for you, Pile 3. We are sending you so much love and support for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. Go be you. And until we meet again, take care. Bye-bye.